Hello, kiddies. It's your old pal, the Crypt Keeper. And you're listening to Three Guys in a Flick. The good, the bad, and the gruesomely absurd.
Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The show is about to begin.
Welcome to prime time, bitch!
Three guys and a flick with Duncan and John. Dive into the movies well after the dawn. From the good to the bad to the wildly absurd. They give a fuck about films. Their voices are heard.
Welcome back. You are listening to Three Guys in a Flick. This is where we review the good, the bad, and the absurd. Tonight's episode, A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors. Beware spoilers. Coming to you from a room at the Weston Hill Psychiatric Hospital, my name is Don. And to my right, we have the comic book guy, John.
Howdy-ho.
The professor has the night off, and filling in for him tonight is a returning guest. This is Keenan.
Hello.
How you guys doing tonight?
Doing amazing. We're talking about one of my favorite Nightmare on Elm Street movies.
All right. What about you? How you doing?
Doing just fantastic.
All right. All right.
I feel like I'm just walking through dreamland.
Hey, guys. Straight talk only in here. Tonight, we are talking about A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors. We are talking about this movie because, well, it was my pick, and we had just recently done Freddy's Revenge. And as I've told the two guys and everyone else who listens, we're going to go through this entire series. So sit back and relax.
Enjoy the ride.
Don't fall asleep.
Released on February 27th, 1987, A Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors was directed by Chuck Russell. Screenplay by Wes Craven, Bruce Wagner, Frank Darabont, and Chuck Russell. Story by Wes Craven and Bruce Wagner. And it stars Heather Langenkamp, Patricia Arquette, Larry Fishburne, Priscilla Pointer, Craig Wesson, John Saxon, Robert Englund, and a bunch of other Dream Warriors.
How'd this movie do, Don?
This movie was made for $4.6 million and brought in $45 million.
Not too shabby.
No, at the time, it was the highest grossing Nightmare, right?
Mm-hmm.
It had outgrossed 2 and 1.
Well, I'll say it's the third one.
Well, yes, but what I'm saying is
There wasn't a lot to compete with.
Duh.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
What did the first one make?
The first Nightmare on Elm Street made $25 million.
How about 2?
That one made $30 million. So
right. Trending upward.
Yeah. Well, this comes at a time when fans were still kind of sour about 2, and New Line, they knew it and they wanted to make a third one. So naturally they go back and ask the master himself to come out and lend a hand. So Bob Shea makes things right with Wes Craven, and Wes Craven and Bruce Wagner come in with a script.
Why didn't he direct it?
Because he was doing, don't tell me, he was doing another horror movie called what?
Deadly Friend.
God damn it. A Deadly Friend. It was about a fucking
Freddy Krueger.
killer dog.
Oh.
So yeah, he doesn't direct this one, and he turns in a script, and here tell the original idea for this was way darker.
Well, there was 2 original ideas that Wes Craven had. The first one is he wanted to do a meta reality one where everybody's out of the movie and it focuses on the actors. That ended up being a new Nightmare because they just thought it was that nobody would understand, nobody would get it. But it just so happens to be that's the one that Wes Craven then returned again to do out of the series. So he did, 3 movies? He wrote 3 movies?
Yes.
There's a story of another idea that he pitched, which was focusing on where Freddy grew up, his home, and that was going to be the place where supposedly he killed all of the children, was at his home and was the source of his powers. And so they were going to go, the whole mission was going to be to go and destroy that home, to not only destroy Freddy, destroy his powers, destroy everything, and end it. Either way, Wes Craven's plan for this movie was it was the final Nightmare on Elm Street. He wanted Freddy dead in this movie.
Right. And the draft him and Bruce Wagner turn in is that all of the teenagers in Springfield congregate on this one place to what appears to be in the real world to commit suicide, but in reality, it's Freddy who's fucking with them, and Kristen was still the key. So early on, Wes Craven created the Dream Warrior idea.
Mm-hmm.
And then New Line said, that might be a little hard to film.
A
little dark.
Well, the movie opens with the Edgar Allan Poe quote, and immediately from the get-go, you think, oh, it's going to be dark.
Yeah.
But then the movie totally takes on a different tone.
Right. Exactly. And it's Rachel Taylor, who has been with the Nightmare series from the first one, and she directs 6. She says, I got this buddy, Chuck Russell, who wrote this movie called Dreamscape. You guys might want to check it out. And listeners, Dreamscape in the helmet, please and thank you.
I still remember the snake monster from that one.
Yeah. I remember Dennis Quaid and the Kung Fu bit.
Yeah.
And David Patrick Kelly, T-Bird from The Crow.
Mm-hmm.
He's the nemesis.
He's the bad guy.
Yeah.
Quick question for you.
Yes.
Did you see this in the theater?
Funny story. I did see this in the theater. And in fact, this was the first Nightmare on Elm Street movie I saw.
Because you said before the movie scared the crap out of you the first time you saw the first one.
Yeah, I don't see the first one in its entirety until after I see this one.
Oh.
And I think I say that on the Nightmare Pod. But anyways, 1987, my buddy Dave and I, we go to Cinema 12. You remember Cinema 12? There were 12 theaters. You paid and it was like the cheap theaters.
I think so, yeah.
And so what we would do is we would pay our $3 to go in, and then we would movie hop, and we would spend all day there. And I remember we walked in on Nightmare on Elm Street 3 during the marionette puppet scene. And that's scared,
a good place to walk in.
That scared the shit out of me too. So we walked out and went and saw whatever was popular in 1987. And then we talked about it, and we caught the next showing of 3, and I was fucking hooked. So yeah. Did you see it in the theater?
I did see it, but I did not see it opening weekend. I was already hooked, a big fan by then. And I remember I had to go on some trip or something, and I couldn't see it opening weekend. So I went out and got the book adaptation of this movie and read the book. Loved the book because it went into a lot of what people were thinking, what Freddy was thinking, and it expanded. I didn't even realize it expanded on the ending of the movie. And then when I went and saw the movie, I actually liked the book better, but I still loved the movie.
Oh, interesting.
Do you still have that book?
No, I don't, and I wish I did. It was a book that contained 1, 2, and 3 in it.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. When was the first time you saw it there, Keenan?
Well, I saw it with you and Joey Parker.
That sounds about right.
I don't know. We had hyped it up so much at that point that I don't know if it ever would have met my full expectations, but it was a lot of fun. I remember it was more so the experience of watching it, having not being able to see it previously, right?
Mm-hmm.
Rite of passage. What sticks out for me most is the puppet. What's his name? Philip. I keep wanting to say Joey, but it's not Joey.
Joey's the master debater.
Yes.
Who's gone quiet.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't, I can't say, all right, from my perspective, The Mummy with Brendan Fraser was a lot scarier than Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors.
Yeah, well, there you go.
So,
there you go.
When you think of Dream Warriors, what's the first thing that just jumps out in your mind? Thank you. Exactly where I was going. I can't think of the movie without thinking of in my opinion, one of the most iconic songs for a Nightmare on Elm Street movies.
I think it is the most iconic song for a Nightmare
It's not
the series.
Surprisingly, it's not the highest charting song in a Nightmare on Elm Street series.
Okay. What is the highest charting?
Did you want to take a guess which movie or
It's from 4. 4 has it's from 5?
It is from number 5.
And what's the name of the song?
There was a song that reached number 1 on the UK singles chart.
Which was
Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter by Iron Maiden.
Huh. Was that written for the movie?
That I don't know if it was written for the movie, but it was it was featured in Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child, and it's the one that reached the highest, followed by Dream Warriors, which got to number 22 on the Billboard mainstream rock charts.
Huh.
There was another song that they say reached 15, but it was never actually in a Nightmare on Elm Street movie.
Oh, well, there
and
you
that
go.
one was Nightmare on My Street by DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince.
I remember when that song came out, and that kind of freaked me out too at the time.
You know, I actually like the Fat Boys Nightmare on Elm Street song better than Fresh Prince.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember that one?
Uh-huh. That one's from 4, I believe.
Is it?
Yeah. 4 is considered MTV Freddy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's because this one, he's primetime Freddy.
That's right. All right. Chuck Russell. This is his directorial debut. After this, he goes on to do The Blob, The Mask, and The Scorpion King.
All good movies.
Yeah. Well, I'm not a huge fan of The Mask. Again, I'm not a huge Jim Carrey fan, but The Scorpion King I fucking loved. I remember that.
I thought The Mask did justice to the comic book series, so I was a fan for it. You know, me with comic books.
Yeah.
I can't believe you don't like Jim Carrey.
Sorry, bud.
Huh?
Looking at who wrote the screenplay, you have Wes Craven, Bruce Wagner, and then Frank Darabont. I forgot that Frank Darabont had written Dream Warriors.
Where do we know him from?
What's he directed?
Off the top of my head,
Yep.
a lot of Stephen King movies. He's done Green Mile, Shawshank Redemption, and The Mist.
Yeah.
I think he had a part of bringing the first season of Walking Dead to fruition.
Yeah.
So
So he goes on and does a lot of great things. We've done Shawshank here, but I'd love to do The Mist. Probably the most depressing ending in any
Kick in
movie
the balls
ever.
movie.
yeah.
I would love to do The Green Mile.
Yeah, and both you and the professor would. So, Keenan, you can come take my place.
all right, I'll let
for
you
the
know when I
Green
feel
Mile.
like crying.
Yeah, see. Let's talk about this cast a little bit. Heather Langenkamp comes back. What do you think of her as reprising her role of Nancy?
Well, first of all, she is probably, I mean, there's arguments of who's the greatest scream queen out there and the greatest last girl.
Final girl. They're not last girls. I meant to correct you the last time you said this.
Okay.
Final girl.
Final girls. She is, I mean, a lot of people say Jamie Lee Curtis is the best final girl. Nancy is my favorite final girl. And I might be a little biased because I've said this, I think, every time we've brought up Freddy, but I got to meet her one time in real life in a hotel and she gave me a hug.
Are you sure you weren't dreaming, bud?
No, I was not dreaming. I went up to her, kind of a fanboy, basically went up to her while she was waiting in line to check in the hotel and said, I'm sorry to disturb you. I know you're probably just in from a flight. I just got to tell you, I loved you in Nightmare on Elm Street, loved you in Dream Warriors. You're my favorite final girl. And she just lit up and immediately just gave me a huge hug and said, thank you. I don't hear that enough.
Oh, that's so awesome. And she's my favorite final girl, too.
And then she insisted we took a picture together. So I got that picture on my phone.
That's fantastic.
As far as franchises go, I think she's the only one to be resurrected, like our villains.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, she got to be in
That's
3.
a little bit of a spoiler, though.
Well, he brings up a good point because Nancy's killed in 3, but then comes back in A New Nightmare. So she does resurrect in a way.
Yeah, I don't remember Jamie Lee Curtis doing that.
I never thought of it like that. You're right. Because she's asked to play Nancy, but Nancy was dead and she has to come.
She has to come back as herself.
Yeah.
You up to
Good
speed?
point. Great point.
Thank you.
This is Patricia Arquette's first role. What'd you think of Patricia Arquette as Kristen?
Is it creepy to say that she is beautiful?
No, why would it be creepy?
Because she's supposed to be playing a teenager and all that. But
I think she's like 18, 19.
okay, anyway,
when she does this.
I thought she's just stunning in this movie, first of all, as well as I thought she did a great job. I mean, she played the character pretty well, especially when she was hysterical.
Her scream was on point.
Yeah.
So, what'd you think?
When I think of Patricia Arquette, immediately I think Little Nicky.
Yes.
So again, when I first saw this movie, I don't think I was, judging her performance as an actress at that time. So, I mean, she was like the co-lead of this movie. Female
But
lead.
you watched it last night, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What'd you think of her performance overall?
I think it was good. I can see why she became, a reoccurring actor, why we know her today. So,
Well, Robert Englund said from the moment he met her and saw her act, he knew she was going places, that she was going to be famous. He also said that every guy on the set instantly fell in love with her, had a huge crush on her, and would constantly come to him to ask for advice on how to ask her out.
interesting.
Yeah. In that Never Sleep Again documentary that we talked about, the reason why she does, there was never really a good reason given why she doesn't come back to do 4.
That was my next question. I was literally about to ask if she was in 4.
But they chalk it up to scheduling conflict. Like she was making something else.
I tried to do research, and some said it was money issues. Some say it was scheduling. Some say she just was done with it and she had moved on. She didn't want to do a sequel.
Yeah. And I like 4 a lot, but the one thing that is missing is Patricia Arquette.
I know.
It's definitely seemed like it would be like a baton passing off.
Exactly.
It would be hard to go into those shoes. So, I mean, they kill her off pretty quick.
Yeah. Larry Fishburne has a quick bit in this. I was surprised to see him, even way back when, but I loved him in this movie. I feel like he cares for these kids.
Yeah, I mean, at one point I think he calls them my kids.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And he does pretty good when he gets slashed by Kristen.
I don't know that I understand towards the end of the movie when Nancy's asking to see Patricia Arquette's character. She says no, and then she goes, "Well, can I see the other kids?" He's like, "Okay."
Right. He's like, oh, okay.
Well, we'll get to it. But it seems like he makes a lot of bad choices in this movie.
A couple. Yeah, there are some questionable decisions. But like any horror movie, you have to have questionable decisions.
We also get the return of John Saxon in this movie.
I was really happy to see him come back. And every time a character from the old movie would show up, and I remember thinking, oh, that's so fucking awesome.
I had heard ahead of time, and plus reading the book, I knew that Nancy was coming back. I think that got spoiled really early, really quick.
Well, that's your fault.
I did not know that he was coming back, so when he showed up on screen, that kind of got my Jimmy going.
Yeah, and he comes back in New Nightmare too. So, yeah, I liked him. What'd you think of him?
Yeah. Other than the fact that when they leave the bar, the doctor makes him drive, even though he's the alcoholic.
That's a good point. The guy who played Kincaid, Ken Sagos, what'd you think of him?
Oh, I thought Kincaid was a great character. My next question was going to be, out of the Dream Warriors, who was your favorite?
Ooh, that is tough.
Mine was Kincaid. I mean, outside of Kristen, Nancy, blah, blah, blah.
I think Kincaid has the best lines.
I think
out of all the Dream Warriors.
And I think he's my favorite.
Yeah. Did you know how he auditioned for the role?
Yeah. He actually didn't even want to audition for it, but for whatever reason he goes. I guess his bus is late getting there. It's pouring down rain. He's pissed off. He walks in and Chuck Russell goes, I didn't really prepare anything for you, so just go ahead and give us anything you want. He just starts cussing everybody out. Fuck you and all this kind of bullshit. And Chuck Russell on the spot goes, you're hired. So that's a good story.
I feel like that attitude carries on to his character.
Yeah.
Directly.
Did you have a favorite Dream Warrior?
Well, like you said, aside from our leads, I don't think so. They seem, there wasn't a lot of character building or a lot of material to allow me to get close to the characters. That's why it's interesting that you had that book, John. Be curious to know.
I need to find that book or get another copy.
I wonder if there's this thing on a computer that you could look it up. Weird. Anyway.
Unless it's out of print.
But the internet would tell you that.
Yeah, probably. Maybe I should check the AI.
Yeah. Why don't you check the fucking AI, buddy, and quit interrupting Keenan while he's trying to finish his fucking thought?
Well, I thought you guys researched the movies before you did the podcast.
Movies, yes. Books, not so much. For myself.
Well, noted.
Okay.
Speaking of Kristen, do you know who almost played Kristen?
Winona Ryder.
Winona Ryder tried out for it.
You're too young. So,
And just how I see her more as like the Taryn. I don't know why. Maybe it's just the brunette.
Maybe. Yeah. The man, Robert Englund. This is his third outing as Freddy. What'd you guys think of Freddy?
This is officially, I think, what I was already a big fan of the Nightmare on Elm Street series. This one hooked me because I love his portrayal of Freddy in this, that he got the opportunity to ad-lib some lines, to really bring out this new version of Freddy who is just sarcastic, a bully, who preys on weaknesses, and kind of build the lore of him. So I thought of all the movies, in my opinion, this was the best one that he acted as Freddy.
Yeah, it's primetime Freddy, right?
Yeah.
All the characteristics John just described are Deion Sanders too. It's primetime.
Yeah.
He showed up.
And watching the documentary that's on the Blu-ray of Nightmare 3, the "Welcome to Primetime, bitch" is the only line that Robert Englund has ever ad-libbed.
Oh.
So it was like, "Welcome to Primetime, little girl," or something like that. And he said the cadence and the feel was off, and so I just did it. And Chuck Russell loved it. And I think that moment in cinematic history is to what ultimately becomes MTV Freddy.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Oh
And
yeah,
then-
this was. Well, do you watch Rick and Morty?
Yes.
I mean, it's Scary Terry, right? I had a hard time watching this after recently watching Rick and Morty, and he does say bitch a lot at the end of whatever he's saying. So it definitely seems like this is quintessential Freddy that inspires the rest of time and what he is.
This movie in 4 is Freddy Krueger at his apex, at his highest.
I feel like,
Because then it goes on a fucking downturn.
I mean, because you make a great point about being the MTV Freddy. I feel like after this movie, Freddy appears, first of all, everywhere.
Yeah.
He's in every commercial. He's
Yeah.
showing up on MTV.
We have dolls of child killers for little kids. Yes.
And I also feel like the first two movies, you still kind of rooted for the good guys in the movies, and you kind of saw Freddy as the bad guy. Starting with this movie, I think people started rooting for Freddy.
John, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Who the fuck cares what you think?
That's from the Jar Jar board.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're
Good.
going to get to that.
I'm glad you got it. And you're not all offended.
No, I have to say that watching it last night, that was the part that sticks out the most. I giggled for probably a good minute and a half after that.
Yeah,
It was just so
When we
funny.
get to that scene, we got some stuff to cover on that one.
That was good.
Anyone else in the cast jump out at you?
Is Amanda Krueger related to Batman?
Why would Amanda Krueger be related to Batman?
Because the way, every time someone turns around and looks direction and then looks back, she's gone.
No, that
She's pulling the Batman trick.
You're mistaking her for Martha Kruger.
Oh, Martha.
Martha.
Why did you say that name?
We haven't talked about the main doctor,
Craig Wesson.
Craig Wesson.
What'd you think of him?
I liked him. I thought he was a good addition to the story. I thought he was a good counter for Nancy, or a good partner for Nancy.
I had one issue with his character.
What's that?
Well, it was something that I was just talking to you the other night while we were watching the movie. Nancy is brought in as an intern. She's fresh out of school. She's an intern, and she's basically working for him. She's basically been assigned to him.
Yes.
And he's basically flirting with her, taking her out on dates, and in an extended scene that got cut, sleeps with her. I mean, not the greatest boss in the world, but he does, I guess, give a good bonus.
I don't think that scene ever got filmed.
I don't know, did it?
It's not in any of the thing that I've looked up. It is in a synopsis that they were supposed to have a relationship.
And it's in the book, so.
So, yeah.
If they sleep together, wouldn't he be doomed by Freddy too, then?
If they actually sleep.
Wait, what are you talking about?
I got the feeling from the second movie that Freddy doesn't like it when it starts to turn into kind of a sexy dream time. He kind of, slinks away. He doesn't like that. It gets too creepy.
He prefers younger.
You beat me by 2 seconds.
You said that in the second movie.
That's right. And I said that earlier. I think that they clearly like each other. And
Yeah.
I don't think they shied away from that. And I'll just chalk it up to, it's 1987, man. So what are you going to do?
There was another thing that I think probably makes this one of your favorite Freddy movies. And it's something that happens throughout the whole freaking movie. What is that?
I don't know. What is it?
Slow-mo.
It's the fact that everybody seems to smoke in this movie.
Oh, absolutely. Everyone had a fucking cigarette.
Did it make you want to go outside and smoke?
No, it made me want to sit exactly where I was and smoke. But, you can't smoke in the house these days. But what'd you think of the doctor? What'd you call him? Bill Maher?
Yeah, it looks like Bill Maher.
Yeah, I can see that.
He didn't impress me. I mean, he just kind of seemed like almost like damsel in distress. Like he was just kind of along for the ride. I think he had things to do with the story that were important, like the whole politics of the hospital and whatnot. But I mean, it was fine. I take it or leave it. I'm pretty sure any other actor would have done fine.
Yeah, he was in one of those roles that he did a great job, but anybody could have played that character.
Yeah, maybe.
Low ceiling.
So this is now where we would go ahead into trivia, but since our trivia master, Ken, the professor, is not here this week, I thought we would just take turns asking each other some trivia questions and see if we can stump each other.
I like that idea. And Keenan, please feel free to stay quiet. All right, you want to go first? You want me? How many do you have?
I want to go first.
I've got a total of 5, but I don't know if I'm going to read them all.
Motherfucker, I only came up with 3. You said either 3 or 4. Why do you come up with 5?
Well, I thought
he's trying to outdo me.
I thought I would.
He's trying to big time me.
I thought I would do 3, but if you wrote down the same ones, I wanted to have a couple extras to throw in.
Well,
in case, so we're not asking ourselves the same freaking questions, because you and I.
Well,
share
if
the
you
same
asked
brain.
me a question and I saw that, I would say I had that same question.
But shut up.
But
Give me
you
both
and
of
I-
your lists, and I'll read
No,
randomly.
but you and I share the same brain when it comes to Nightmare on Elm Street.
That's probably true.
Okay, but I'll go.
Did
first.
you have a
You
question?
guys in 2? No, sorry.
Okay, so
Were we in 2? That's good. It's a good callback.
first one.
Yeah.
When Kristen Parker arrives at the hospital and holds the staff at bay, what number of the Freddy nursery rhyme does she start with?
5-6, grab your crucifix.
He is correct.
Where is Freddy's remains kept?
In the Cadillac, the red Cadillac. In the junkyard.
In the junkyard, in the red
Auto
Cadillac.
yard, yeah. What name does Amanda Krueger go by?
Sister Mary Helena.
That is correct.
What is the name of the junkyard where the red caddy is kept with the remains of one Freddy Krueger?
You thought you might get me on this one, huh?
No, I just thought of it.
Penny Brothers Auto.
Penny Bros.
Bros Auto.
To be more
junkyard,
specific,
yeah.
but I'll give it to you.
Penny, yeah.
I'll give it to you.
I actually, you know what? I caught that last night when we were watching.
So did I. All right, go on.
What does Freddy carve into Joey's stomach?
Come
Bitch.
and get him, bitch.
No, I just didn't remember it was bitch.
What is the name of the hot nurse? And it is said audibly.
I don't remember him saying it. Tina?
Nope. I'll even give you one more chance.
April.
Aunt Marcy.
Marcy, yeah.
Hey, Marcy, where are you going with that? Down to Seaward? Yeah, let me push it for you.
All right, I got one for both of you. I just thought of.
Okay.
What is the name of the dream suppressing drug?
Hypnosil.
Oh, damn. All right.
How old was Amanda Krueger when she died?
Well, it was 1907 to 1968. So whatever that math is.
61 years old. Yeah. I'm glad you wrote that down.
Bam. And my last question, what time is it on Kristen's clock in the opening?
12:04.
11:11.
1:20 a.m.
Okay.
1:20 a.m.
My final question. In what order does Freddy release Joey's appendages?
Nancy catches his right arm, I think. So left arm, left leg, right leg?
You were close. It's right hand, right foot, left hand, and she catches him right as his left hand.
Oh,
is
see,
like-
I fucked that, got that reversed.
But
to
I kept
begin with.
thinking, if you think about it, he did the right hand and then the right foot. Wouldn't he have just flopped down?
Yeah, well,
That's
fucking
just kind of weird. But yeah.
dream.
It's Freddy's World.
Yeah, that's true. It's kind of the Freddy's world.
One year after the events of A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, teenager Kristen Parker experiences a terrifying dream where Freddy Krueger attacks her. When she awakes, it appears she has slit her wrists, leading her mother to admit her to Weston Hills Psychiatric Hospital, believing she is suicidal. At the hospital, Kristen meets Dr. Neil Gordon and a group of troubled teens whom have suffered from nightmares about Freddy. When Kristen resists sedation, the new intern therapist, Nancy Thompson, calms her by reciting Freddy's nursery rhyme, proving she understands what Kristen is going through. Nancy bonds with the patients. Philip, the sleepwalker, Kincaid, a tough fighter, Jennifer, an aspiring actress, Will, who is paralyzed from a past suicide attempt, Taryn, a recovering addict, and Joey, who is too traumatized to speak. Kristen soon learns she has the ability to pull others into her dreams. One night, she accidentally brings Nancy into her nightmare, allowing them both to escape Freddy. So this movie opens without a dream sequence.
I think it's the only Nightmare on Elm Street movie that doesn't start with a dream sequence.
And I think that 5 doesn't start with a dream sequence, and we tried to research that, but we'll let you know, listeners. But this definitely is the first one, and very well might be the only one that doesn't start with a dream sequence.
Yeah, because it starts with her awake, and then she falls asleep.
Right. What'd you think of this opening with her making the house and the creepy music?
I like the music, the song that they just kind of start with.
It's very reminiscent to the theme of the first one because it has elements of it, which Nightmare 2 didn't have, which automatically brings this one up even more for me because we're going back to the roots.
It was very reminiscent of the first one. It also establishes that it starts the overall theme of bad parents. Neglecting their kids, and then that just fits perfectly in with the image of it, making it look like she cut herself when she wakes up from the dream. So creates our character type where it's like the shitty parents don't know what to do, and then they commit them to this Weston Hills.
Right.
What I liked is that, we kind of start with she's building something. We don't know what she's building. It, it's obviously goopy. It's paper mache. It's something. And then we realize, she's building a house. And then it's, she's building Nancy's house.
Yeah. I love the bit where she takes a scoop of Maxwell House freeze-dried coffee and she downs it with some Diet Coke to stay awake. And then she checks the clock. She turns on the radio. Did you know that the original song that was playing on the radio was not the Dawkins song that we hear today? Yeah.
What was it?
It was some other song, and I remember it because it sounds very 80s. And we had mentioned earlier when you hear the 80s music, you were like, yeah, let's go.
Yeah, there were a couple times where that 80s music kicks in and the volume on it is like at 11 when the rest of the movie's at 10.
Yeah. And so anyway, the music's super loud. She's building this house, and then her mom comes home from, I guess, was a date because some dude's downstairs. And she tries to tell her mom, I'm having these really bad dreams. And like you were saying, mom's just being neglectful.
Well, this is also a setup, and I always like to bring up foreshadowing. This is a setup for an exact same scene that takes place again later on in the movie with the, where's the bourbon?
You're absolutely right. And it's a callback to Freddy using the kids' fears against them.
Mm-hmm.
And,
that's what really makes sense when you look at Freddy haunting these kids. Each kid that when they fall asleep, it's like they're waking up right where they were, but they're in dreamland, Freddy's land. So, and it mirrors their reality. So,
yeah.
But this is also where we transition into our first dreamscape.
I love this nightmare sequence. It was dark, and Patricia Arquette does a great job trying to, I don't know why you go wandering around, but.
Well, we first see like the kids jumping rope outside.
And then there's this little girl riding around, and her name is Kristen, and Kristen's name is Kristen. And the little girl goes up to the porch on her little tricycle, and she goes inside.
And Kristen chases after her.
Little girl, no, right?
Don't go in there.
What'd you guys think of the whole in the house bit?
I thought it was just the design of the house and everything. It's creepy as fuck.
Yeah, I mean it's fun. It's always like a fun house when these poor kids wake up and they need to find Freddy. So we got to take a couple turns and
So they get so Kristen is led down to the boiler room
where she finds the little girl again,
and then the little girl says the line of "Freddy's home," which now we know he's back, and
bitch.
She picks up the little girl and starts running, and we get a bit where she's running in the ground but not going anywhere, which is a callback to Nancy trying to run up the stairs in the first one.
I always wondered about this scene when she's running and Freddy comes up and takes a swipe at her. I think Freddy let her go because he's just building the fear to feed off of her. Because otherwise, how'd she get out of the slimy, slippery, whatever? He could have killed her easily.
Well, he needs to feed off the fear of the kids throughout the movie. So this is the first dream sequence. He's probably at his weakest.
I chalk it up to Kristen's will in wanting to stay alive that gets her out of that gunk. And Freddy was taking an honest to God swing at her. But that's just how I took it.
Why didn't she do the gymnastics thing at this point?
Because she's holding the little fucking girl, dude. Can you do a flip while holding a little girl?
She was dead anyway.
It was definitely.
Kristen didn't know that at the moment.
Definitely looked like a doll.
I keep thinking, she then runs along, goes around a couple of corners, and enters the room of all the hanging bodies. I had forgotten about the hanging bodies.
So did I. And that is such a disturbing scene.
It is. And kudos for Krueger on decorating. That was great.
And then we get that little girl's line.
Let me go. You're hurting me.
And she looks down and she sees
a burnt skeleton.
And I'm thinking she couldn't smell that. And then we get one of our fake outs.
I love this. Kristen wakes up and we think she's awake. And this scene here is so Freddy Krueger. And it really does take us back to the beginning and what Freddy actually is. She goes into the bathroom. She turns on the sink. The handles of the sink turn into the claws.
It's one of
in her hand.
One of my favorite effects, this scene with the handles.
And then Kristen sees herself in the mirror, but then Freddy is superimposed over it. And she sees Freddy. He's laughing. You see him bring up his claws coming down. We see a spurt of blood on the mirror. And she's screaming.
I love that the pipes, as she pulls the arms out of the claw and pipes out of the countertop, is that they're bones and they look like actual arm bones.
Yeah.
Like Freddy's actual bones.
Yeah. And as she's screaming, her mom opens the door, and we as the audience know we are instantly woken up. Mm-hmm. We are out of the dream, and we see Kristen, and she's holding a razor blade, and she had cut her wrist, and she faints.
Next, I think, don't we jump to the hospital?
Yeah, and we are given a tour of Weston Hills, kind of. We're introduced to Dr. Gordon, who is going to become one of the protagonists, and also his boss, Dr. Sims.
And they're talking about this intern that's coming in.
Yep. And then we also get to meet Larry Fishburne's character. And as Dr. Gordon's walking through the hall, we're introduced to Taryn.
Taryn, who's wearing a
Dawkins shirt. And then Philip, who's kind of running by. Mm-hmm. And then all of us...
we also get to see Kincaid in the quiet room, isn't he?
Yeah, because that's when Sims walks up and they start talking about Kincaid. And she's like, we're going to fucking have to do something with this motherfucker because he's violent, he has outbursts, and he's just kind of a dick.
Yeah, she's saying that likely they're going to put him in permanent solitary.
Oh, that's what it is. And the doc's like, we hope it doesn't come to that. Right. And then the loudspeaker goes off and something's going on in one of the exam rooms.
Mm-hmm.
And then we cut to Kristen
screaming.
They're trying to sedate her. They're trying to put her to sleep. And we all know you can't go to sleep, dumb fucks.
Well, she's kicking their asses.
Yeah.
Well, not everybody knows that at this point.
They don't.
We do as the audience.
They don't believe it at this point. And so she breaks their grass a couple of times, then jumps over, grabs a scalpel, which I'm thinking, why is a loose scalpel just sitting around in that room? What are they doing in a psychiatric ward that they're cutting people up?
It's 1987 and it's an exam room. Yeah. I would be more shocked if a scalpel wasn't in there. And this leads to one of my favorite bits. Kristen is holding them at bay with the scalpel and she starts reciting the poem, or she starts reciting the nursery rhyme. And when she gets to 9:10, she can't finish it. And
doesn't she just keep saying never sleep again, or never.
Yeah. And then you hear a voice say never sleep again. And we cut to Nancy and then that musical cue. And I remember in the theater thinking, fucking cool. And then after I had watched all the other ones, I remember thinking, oh, that's fucking awesome.
But you caught something. I didn't catch it before. What did you catch about Nancy?
Her gray stripe in her hair is on the wrong side. So Nancy manages to calm Kristen down.
And the fact that she says the nursery rhyme and Kristen immediately hugs her. I mean, It's just like, oh my God, finally somebody who understands.
And then we cut to Nancy and Neil walking and they're talking and
Hitting it off.
Yeah, probably. And Dr. Gordon tells Nancy, "I was really great work in there. I'm really impressed." And she goes, "Well, I've had some experience with pattern nightmares."
She also drops her purse or something.
And then her bottle of Hypnosil comes out, and this is where Hypnosil is first introduced into the series. What did you think of the bit where Nancy gets to meet all of our Dream Warriors?
I thought it was nice because first, doesn't she walk in and she meets Kincaid and Philip? And I love how Max puts it, you won't be seeing much of him.
Because he doesn't want to have to look at your ugly ass all of the time.
Right, Cool Breeze?
And then we're introduced to Philip, who we know sleepwalks.
Mm-hmm.
And
Foreshadowing.
and makes puppets. But they both, Kincaid and Philip, don't seem to be too bothered about not sleeping.
Well, I think,
at this moment.
Well, for Kincaid, he just puts on a tough exterior, and I almost felt like Philip has resigned himself to his fate. Like he's just like, nobody's going to believe us. They're going to, we're just going to die one by one.
Yeah.
Because another thing that's revealed in a previous conversation is they've all just experienced another one of the kids mutilating his eyes. He cut off his eyelids so he wouldn't fall asleep, and he was taken away. So they've already gone through trauma, before Nancy got there.
Yeah.
This is where we see the first low ceiling of our character development, because like he's kind of playing it off. It's almost as like the actor is like, I'm in this movie for the first 30 minutes, first one to die. I have one talking scene, and then I die.
And so they go into their first group, and Nancy gets to meet the rest of the cast of characters, and we're introduced to Jennifer, who is an aspiring actress.
Who that actual actress, after this movie, went on to do a lot of television work.
And we know that her thing is that she likes to burn herself with cigarettes in order to stay awake.
Mm-hmm.
And then she introduces the audience and us to Joey, and we learn that he was the
master debater.
And what we are to take from it is that Freddy has scared him so much, or he's so traumatized by him, that he doesn't talk anymore. So now he's a mute. So he's ironic.
Freddy's got him tongue-tied.
There you go. And we're introduced to Will, who is in a wheelchair.
And is also a dungeon master.
He loves his Dungeons and Dragons. Reminded me of you, comic book guy. And then Taryn, who is a recovering addict.
Who's there because it's better than juvie.
Right. She got in some trouble, and yeah, there she is. So after group, Dr. Gordon and Nancy go on their first date. They go to the only Thai food in Springwood. And this is where Nancy pitches to Neil Hypnosil.
And I love his first reaction. Fuck no.
And what the fuck are you doing taking it? Right.
How it all comes out in that conversation is kind of interesting, because Nancy's like, I think I know something that might be able to help you. And he goes, oh, Hypnosil, which he only knew because he read the label that fell out of her purse. And that night he went and researched it. So he knew what it was. So he was like, oh, I know you're going to pitch this.
And so Nancy pitches the idea. She says, what if I told you your patients were in real physical danger? And he's like, because both Dr. Gordon and Dr. Sims, they're convinced that the dreams are a symptom of what the real problem is for these suicidal teens. They are coming at it from a clinical standpoint, where Nancy is coming at it from what's actually happening.
Yeah, what she's actually experienced.
Exactly. And so she pitches it. He says, no, sorry. And, that's that.
And then I think, don't we go back to the hospital later that night? And
next scene.
And Kincaid and like they're going through all the things, and like they go to Will and Joey, who lights out, go to sleep, but Joey's going to stay up to monitor Will in case something goes wrong. We have this in almost every movie, that someone has to monitor somebody else.
Yeah, it's a recurring trope through all of them, for sure.
They take turns on watch.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, this is where Kincaid's a fucking dick, because we go to Kincaid and Philip, and they're both kind of sleeping, whatever, and Philip falls asleep. And then we have that scene that, Freddy jumps down as the puppet and does all that, the slashing, which I think you and I agree that's fucking the most brutal of all Freddy's kills in this movie.
Yep.
The reason why I say Kincaid's a dick is as Philip's being puppeted out of the room, he doesn't fucking wake Philip. He doesn't even get out of bed to say, oh shit, maybe Freddy's after him, or maybe he's having a major issue. Let me wake him the fuck up. He says, what's that line he says?
Have a nice stroll, asshole.
Yeah, so to me, he's the reason that Philip got killed.
It's just complacent. He's the walker. They know him as sleepwalking. He's probably done this how many times before and nothing's happened.
And they have no idea who Freddy is at this point. They just think it's some guy.
Yeah, I would have woken him up because even they show that Will and Joey have a routine of waking each other up at this point.
Well, they take it more seriously than Kincaid and Philip did.
Yeah, 'cause
And
Kincaid's a dick.
I don't blame Kincaid. I blame the hospital for not closing the fucking door.
Mhm.
Who leaves the door open? Isn't it lights out and doors closed?
Well, I think I have a little bit of a deeper question. Who, when, and where did they decide that they wanted the mute guy to wake everybody up?
Well, that's a good point, right?
Well, that
Because he doesn't talk.
that was Will and Joey.
But the other guy's in the room screaming the dude's name, but Joey's sitting there trying to...
Well, I don't think Will was going to run down the hallway.
That's true.
He does bring up a good point.
He could have crawled
that's
down the
true.
hallway screaming.
I
but-
think that's luck of the draw, right?
Yeah, and they probably should have just stuck together because Joey could have wheeled him and he could have yelled.
Yeah, maybe. But it might have taken too much time to get Will into the fucking wheelchair. Anyways,
Too bad they weren't dreaming. Yeah, no, they weren't.
And of course, they all come back to the room and they're screaming and they're watching Philip in the tower.
but I like the shot of Freddy in the space.
Because you can see the stars.
Yeah.
That's super cool. I love
He's
that.
transparent, kind of, and then he, flicks the tendons.
Yeah, we show him working as a puppet master.
with his claws. Philip falls to his death. Death number 1.
Mm-hmm.
Cut 2, the next day, they're in group. They want to talk about Philip's death, and everyone is fucking freaked out.
Well, it's like the two doctors are like, oh, well, he was a coward and, he gave up and it was just an accident, with his sleepwalking. Well, he was awake and
Yeah. And Kincaid starts to get worked up, and Taryn's like, that bastard killed him. And that Dr. Sims is like, how long are you guys going to continue to blame your dreams?
yeah.
Right.
And she comes up with the idea of, okay, from now on, all doors locked at night and all patients sedated. And that's when Kincaid loses his shit.
And everybody starts panicking, this, that, and the other. And then finally, Dr. Gordon comes up and goes, okay, if you're going to do this, I'm prescribing Hypnosil.
Well, doesn't she makes all of the kids go to bed early, right? And also have sedation. So she's forcing the issue.
Yeah, she's forcing Gordon's hand.
Right.
Yeah. And so, yeah, you're absolutely right. He says, he immediately changes his tune. He's prescribing the Hypnosil. You and I think, both agreed it's probably because he just wanted to get some from Nancy, so he's getting on her good side.
Or maybe he got it the night before.
That's possible.
I think we said that too.
Yeah. But either way,
He's trying to get some.
he prescribes it, and Sims is like, okay, well, your career is on the fucking line here.
Right. And Nancy's like, well, can we get it before tonight? And Gordon's like, oh, fuck, I hope so.
Call your guy.
Later that night, Kristen's laying in bed. She's drawing a picture of the house. She starts to doze off. She wakes up. She dozes off. And now we know. Oh, and then we hear some screeching. And it's the tricycle coming into her room.
With the bloody tracks, I always liked that.
And it crumples because of the heat,
Mhm.
which is another thing with this movie. So we know that she's in a dream. And I always like the bits where, and they do it in most of the movies, is when they go through a doorway and then they close the door and then we pull back and we're in the house.
It's a different place.
Yeah, we're in 1428
Yeah,
Elm
Nancy's
Street.
house.
So the door closes, Kristen's in the house and she's getting stalked by Freddy. She walks into a room and she turns on the light and she starts getting attacked by the Freddy snake, which I guess went through a lot of issues while it's being created
Some countries would not show that scene.
because it looks like a giant dong.
That, and it's eating her.
Yeah.
It looks very sexual.
So when they made the puppet, Kevin Yeager, the guy who does the special effects in 2, 3, and 4, I believe, he painted it flesh color, so it really looked phallic.
They're like, turn it black.
And so Chuck
BBF,
Russell,
Big Black Freddy.
Chuck Russell says, "No, dude, we can't film this. We're gonna get fucking nailed for sure." So they put a bunch of green goo on it, lit it differently, and this is what we got.
Yeah, they should have asked advice for however they got away with the alien movies. Like, how'd they get away with those? Those were super sexual.
Yes, absolutely.
I guess the way that big snake puppet thing worked is the way the teeth and the gums and the lips worked. They couldn't get it to work right, so they had to film it in reverse because they could get the lips to come down, but they couldn't get the lips to go up.
Yeah. But in the meantime, while the snake is gobbling her, she yells out for Nancy. And Nancy hears it out of the house that Nancy went and got from her mom.
This was cool. I think this is one of the scenes that I enjoyed most.
Yeah.
I always
Because she's calling Nancy into the dream.
Well, yeah, it's the first like shared dream experience that we're kind of seeing, and that's moving the world forward.
Yeah.
Yes.
I always assumed that when she stands up and she's hearing Kristen, she immediately falls asleep and she falls into the chair. But when we see her go through the chair, that's her dreaming and going into dreamland.
Oh, I think she's asleep in the chair.
Yeah.
I think she's
The
asleep
whole time.
the whole time. I think she's asleep in the chair when she hears the voice in her dream. She stands up and then she, I could have had a V8, and she goes right through the chair and crashes through the mirror. And now she's in the dream with Kristen. And and I love this bit. This was another bit watching it for the first couple of times going, oh, fuck, yes. She saves Kristen from the snake's mouth. Freddy raises and
Erects.
Thank you. Freddy erects, and he looks down at Nancy, and he immediately knows who she is. And he says,
I thought about this. Yeah. Okay. As I thought about it more, it makes sense. But my first question was like, oh, he doesn't recognize her? Because he just goes, you, kind of like, I know your face, but I don't know you.
Oh, he's not going to forget her.
Yeah,
I know.
But what I liked was, especially again, one of the reasons why Nancy is one of my favorite final girls is she comes busting that window, and instead of being in shock or pausing, she immediately grabs a shard of glass and just stabs it right into him. She doesn't even falter for a second.
Oh, she's been there before. She's
badass.
She knows. I mean, she knows who they're dealing with because of Kristen and the rhyme in the beginning. And so, now that Nancy's been pulled in the dream, she knows it's Freddy. It's time for her to straight talk.
Well, she also, they go outside the door, and Nancy basically kind of helps Kristen control her powers and says, get us out of here.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And then they wake up, and Nancy looks at her hand, and she's been cut.
Mm-hmm.
Nancy explains that Freddy is targeting them because they are the last of the Elm Street kids, the surviving children of those who burned him alive. Over the next nights, Freddy kills Jennifer, increasing the group's fear. Desperate for a way to fight back, Nancy leads the remaining teens into group hypnosis experiment where they all enter a shared dream and discover their dream powers, abilities they can use to fight Freddy. However, Freddy captures Joey, leaving him comatose in the real world. Furious, the hospital fires Nancy and Neil. Meanwhile, a nun named Sister Mary Helena tells Neil the secret of Freddy's origin. He was the son of a hospital worker who was raped by hundreds of mental patients, making him something beyond human. She warns that Freddy can only be truly defeated by finding and consecrating his remains on hallowed ground. Neil and Nancy track down Don Thompson, Nancy's father, the only man who knows where Freddy's bones are hidden. Meanwhile, Freddy kills Taryn and Will inside the dream world, leaving only Christine, Kincaid, and Nancy. And so now they are in group, which is kind of an unofficial group because Sims isn't there.
What? Oh, yeah.
And this is where Nancy says, I know who's trying to kill you. And everybody in the room was like, don't fuck with us. We're not in the mood. Right. And this bit I love because it's kind of chilling. And it's because of the warrior's reactions. She says he wears a dark brown, dirty hat, and the music starts to build and everyone starts to look at her like, oh shit, he's horribly burned and he has razor for fingers. And they're all like, who is he? And she explains, this is Freddy Krueger. He was a child murderer until a bunch of parents tracked him down and burned him alive in his boiler room. And then he became something worse. And he started killing people in their dreams.
Oh, I like how someone says, well, why is he after us? I think Taryn asked that.
Will says, why? Why is he after us? Oh, no, maybe it is Taryn.
Yeah.
And she says, you are the last of the Elm Street children. And she tells them 6 years ago, he killed my friends and he almost killed me. So I know what the fuck I'm talking about. And they're like, well, what the fuck do we do? And Nancy says, Kristen is the key. And this is where we find out that her power, or she's going to use her power to pull people into the dream. And Nancy has this thought that they are stronger together to fight Freddy than alone.
She also introduces the idea that everybody has some ability, something special within their dreams.
Right.
And they just have to find it.
Right. And so Dr. Gordon's like, all right, fuck, let's give it a shot. And they do some group hypnosis. What do you guys think of this bit?
It's good because they are able to establish a little bit more than their selves as mentally depressed teenagers. Will is able to walk again. Not only that, he's mighty.
That and the key of the nurse giving Joey the kind of the wink and follow me. Yeah, that's not going to happen.
Wait, is that the same dream?
Yeah, because Joey gets lured away,
right?
And then they're like, "Oh fuck yeah, cool, we're in the dream." And then we're introduced to all of their powers. Kincaid's super strong. Taryn's a badass.
Will's not a cripple,
and the Wizard Master.
No,
we never see what Jennifer's is, and Joey gets led away, and Kristen for some reason is an acrobat.
The powers were opposite of their lack of abilities in the real world. Will was mighty and powerful because he was subject to a wheelchair. Patricia Arquette was an acrobatic because she did gymnastics. All of it is tied to the character that we know.
Yeah, and Will's also a dungeon master in real life and in his dreams. You have Taryn, who's so kind of meek and reserved. Now she's beautiful and a badass.
Yeah, she's like rocker. She's the successful side of drugs, sex, and rock and roll.
And that's what keeps people alive, man.
And she's all glittery.
So, and in the meantime, Joey is lured out by the hot nurse. And again, we all know it's a dream. And she's telling Joey, I could get a lot of trouble for this. I've always thought you're really cute and I really like you. And I remember 13-year-old Dawn in the theater going, yes, do it, do it, do it, do it. And
I remember whatever age I was thinking this was seriously emotionally scarring. This whole thing with
the boobs,
just the kissing and the tongue and it filling his mouth. And
yeah, it didn't bother me none because, well,
it was reminding me of
it was boobs. Yes. Then we get this whole, as Keenan put it earlier, Joey gets tongue tied to the bed.
And then as he's doing this, the bottom of the bed opens out. Now we know that Joey's captured. And at the exact moment, the room where all the group is at, where the Dream Warriors in, it starts to get real hot and it's they're starting to freak out and something's happening. And they look at the door, and when the door opens, we're woken up from the dream and it's Dr. Sims and everybody's laying on the ground. And so the hospital officials are pissed, right? The main guy is like, what the fuck happened? And Gordon's like, well, we tried something and it didn't quite work. And I love how the main guy's like, is that what I'm supposed to tell this kid's parents?
Well, this whole scene where they wake up and they're all sitting in the chairs and Joey's on the ground, in his coma or whatever, it makes me, and I'll bring it up later on in the movie, it makes me think, okay, what the fuck happened when Kincaid woke up at the end of the movie then? So, and we'll come back to that.
Well, thanks for prefacing it for us.
Yes.
And so they fire Gordon and Nancy, and everybody's fucking room doors are locked. You're getting sedated. We're putting an end to this shit right fucking now, which they probably could have, because had they gone with Sim's idea, all the kids would have been dead. And what was Freddy going to do? Oh, because that's all the Elm Street kids, right? Anyways,
we get Gordon packing up his box, into his car, and he sees Sister Mary Helena up in the tower.
Right, who he originally ran into at Philip's funeral, and she tells him the soul or the body needs to be laid to rest or something very cryptic.
Mhm.
Right. And so he sees her again. He follows her up to the wing that was closed, where actually, apparently, that's where the traumatic event happened with Freddy's mom,
Yeah,
Amanda Krueger.
We get the first really telling of Freddy's origin, like his background, his childhood.
And this is the first time we hear him referred to as the bastard son of 100 maniacs.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's that. And after that, Gordon and Nancy are driving, and Nancy's like, what? Or Gordon's like, what are we going to do? And Nancy's like, what the fuck are we going to do?
Well, he's recounting the story of his conversation with Amanda Krueger, and she's like, well, she does seem to know more than I do about Krueger.
I like what she says when, I think it's like the last thing she says, but it's something, if you follow science your whole life, you'll be the one
laid to rest. That's what, Amanda says that to Dr. Gordon, I think a little earlier on. I think he says it in the cemetery. She says it to him in the cemetery. In the car ride with Gordon and Nancy, this comes up the whole thing of, well, I guess we're going to need his fucking bones, and there's only one person out there that knows where the bones are. So this
Enter John Saxon.
Yes.
And when I first saw this movie, I thought he was still the sheriff. I thought he was still a cop in Springwood
because I saw the sheriff's badge.
But he's a security guard. He's been demoted, probably because he's an alcoholic, and virtually his life has been destroyed.
Yeah,
right? Ever since
technically a murderer.
His wife got killed.
Yeah, well, technically a murderer too. Yeah. Absolutely, he killed Freddy, right? And so Nancy and Neil find him in a bar,
Little Nemo's,
and she starts saying, "Dad, Freddy's back. I need to know where his bones are." And he's like, Fred Krueger's dead. You've always had a little bit of a hard time understanding that.
Accepting that.
Right.
Shocker. Still a shitty parent.
And I love how Gordon says something to him. He's like, I don't even know who you are.
Yeah, he says, listen, friend, this is a family business, so shut the fuck up, right? And then, loved the 80s. Neil gets a page, because there used to be these things called pagers.
Yeah, wasn't he fired?
Yeah.
Well,
but Taryn was the one who paged him. It wasn't the hospital.
That's right. Yeah, I remember thinking, okay, yeah.
And so he goes and he calls and he finds out that they tell him that Kristen had a shit fit. They sedated her, put her in the quiet room. She's about to go into the dream world alone with Freddy.
Yeah, Freddy's going to get her.
And so Neil's like, okay, Nancy, you go to the hospital, deal with the kids. I'm going to go deal with your dad. And she's like, he won't listen. And he will after he hears what I have to say. Nancy goes back to the hospital.
This is this character's shining moment.
Absolutely.
I love when he walks up and he introduces himself.
Yeah, he says, hi, I'm Neil Gordon. There, now we've met. And he grabs him and he throws him up, right? And so Nancy makes it back to the hospital and Max won't let her see Kristen. But Keenan, you said earlier, what'd you say?
It's funny how she's rushing back. She goes, I need to see Kristen. I need to see Kristen, blah, 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 blah. But she's in solitary confinement or the
quiet room.
Yeah. She's in the quiet room. He's like, no, I can't do that. And she goes, okay, well, can I say bye to the rest of the kids? And he's okay.
I need to pull a professor for the sec. I need to jump back. We totally glossed over at some point Jennifer's death. We didn't talk about that scene at all. We go back, and this is where I'm kind of Max. He's like, I got to take you back to your room. You got to go back to your room. Well, no, okay, I'll let you say, but I didn't see you. So Max makes a fucking first mistake here.
Okay, A, Max doesn't know about Freddy.
No.
B, he really does care about these kids, and he's trying to be a good dude, and he really did only say 5 minutes, but, I mean, Freddy only needs 2 minutes.
Well, he also says, I didn't see you.
Right, well, because he doesn't want to get in trouble.
Yeah.
He's self-aware.
But the thing that I love about this is she's flipping channels, looking at different things, and we get to, I think his name is Dick Cavett.
Dick Cavett and Zsa Zsa Gabor.
Do you know why? They approached first Dick Cavett to do the scene. They said they had some other idea for who he was going to interview, and he said, I want to interview Zsa Zsa Gabor.
And they said, why? And he said, because she is probably the dumbest person I know.
And I would never interview her, and I would love to see Freddy kill her.
And this is the bit that got you giggling.
Yeah, I mean, that's funny you say that. It totally stands out. But the writing here, this is quintessential Freddy just being a total, quick-witted and almost more comedic well, definitely more comedic than we've previously seen him. But Dick Cavett,
Dick Cavett.
Dick Cavett he asked Jar Jar Gabor a question. Oh, he says, "Can I ask you a question?" And Jar Jar Gabor is like, "Of course." And then next, it's Freddy and goes, "Who the fuck cares what you think?"
Yeah. And then the TV goes all fuzzy and Jennifer gets up.
And then as, the arms come out and they grab Jennifer and start lifting her up and Freddy's head comes out.
I will say that though this death is responsible for turning Freddy into MTV Freddy, and in theory it's really cool, it's not plausible, and I'm kind of like, what did she do? Take a running fucking jump? That TV was not low.
Well, we know Freddy can kill anybody in any way. Like, he could have lifted her up and broke her. But the fact that the staff accepted it as something she did herself.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't make any sense to me. And so fast forward back to where we were at, and Nancy's able to meet with the remaining kids.
Well, the reason why I wanted us to jump back was Max immediately, he goes into protective dad kind of mode. He loves these kids. And she's like, "Well, can I talk to the other kids?" And he's like, "I don't know." And she's like, "Please, Max." And he's like, "Okay."
I thought you were going to, when they get into when Nancy goes to get all the kids to go to their last group, the TV has been removed, but the big scorch mark of everything is still sitting there.
That just bothers me because there's Kincaid staring at the wall with the burn marks, knowing that this is where Jennifer took a header into the TV.
Yeah.
And it was just in such bad taste to have the kids in that room.
A little bit. And so they get to go into group one last time, and Nancy starts off with straight talk only in here. And this is it, right? Kristen's going in with or without us, but make no mistake about it. If you die in this dream, you will die for real. So if anyone doesn't want to go, you don't have to. And in the meantime, we're transitioning back and forth with Kristen and the others, and she's kind of pacing the wall, trying to stay awake, but she can't. And then we cut to the Dream Warriors counting down from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then Kristen sinks into the corner, closes her eyes, opens them. And then when we pull back, all the kids are there. And so while this is happening, Neil and Thompson are driving to where Freddy's bones are laid to rest.
Penny Bros.
The alcoholic is driving to where
the alcoholic is driving, and they stop at the church.
Yeah, because we have now been introduced to Christian themes into the series, and which makes sense. So
his mother was a nun.
True that. Gordon stops at a church, gets some holy waddle, gets some holy water.
Gross.
And he gets a cross.
He steals a cross.
Well, they barter. He gives them his ID.
Yeah, I mean, he's good for it.
He's not bringing that cross back.
It's the 80s.
Well, he might. We never know.
He's dig it
I
up.
would. Well, I was going to say, I hope he buried it with Freddy, but whatever. Mm-hmm. And so then they take off to the junkyard.
They never show him going to get his ID back. I wonder if he did that.
No, I think I was saying this the other night. I think pretty much Dr. Gordon was fucked after this movie, because not only did he steal from the church and give them his ID, he's been fired from his job, and basically almost all of the kids under his charge ended up dying.
Well, there's 2 more deaths.
And
so 2
more. It could
guys.
be traced possibly back to the hypnosil that he forced that lady to prescribe.
It's too bad his parents didn't kill Freddy.
Yeah, there you go, because then he would have been on his hit list too. And so we cut back to the dream, and Kristen tells Nancy and the others, Joey's here. Freddy's got him. We got to find him.
Kristen is now the radar, like dream radar or something as well. She knows everything going on in the dream and where everyone is.
And so Freddy knows that they're there and starts attacking the room. And this is where everybody gets split up.
We have our little feathers coming down and kind of transitioning all of them into different places. And this is also, again, where we revisit Kristen's beginning, that now she thinks everything that's happened so far in this movie was a dream.
Did you the first time you saw it?
No. I knew she was now in a dream.
I kind of did. I thought, are they going to go here with this? But
no, I knew that this was just Freddy fucking with her.
And this brings me to one of the scenes that it was always memorable to me growing up. They go through the same bit, and you hear the voice, Elaine, where's the bourbon? And Kristen starts to plead with her mom, and maybe, just maybe, mom is going to listen to Kristen.
Yeah, it's
And
changing a little bit.
It's changing a little bit, but I said, where's the fucking bourbon?
And you notice he was in a nice suit?
Yeah, and cuts her fucking head off.
Yeah.
And she still talks.
Yeah,
She's
which
still
tells
a
me
bitch.
it's not really Kristen's mom, which is why she's alive and forth. So inside the dream, we get Taryn, and she's in her punk rock getup, and
And
she's
she-
walking through an alley.
Yeah, she turns a corner and comes out into an alley.
Because before all of this, as the room's getting torn up, Nancy keeps shouting out, stay together, which is the number one rule for surviving a horror flick, right? Unless you're in a fucking dream world. Because Freddy knows, he splits them all up. And so this is probably the bit I have the most problem with in this movie.
It was the most disappointing for me.
Is this whole fight sequence with Taryn and Will, because they're just dispatched so easily and without thought.
They kind of had built her up to be a badass, and they started out kind of doing that little dance and fight and everything.
She pokes him, she gets a shot in.
I wanted more of a fight, between the two of them.
Yeah. But he uses her fears against her, and his hands come up as the
Hypodermic.
needles.
And I love how he says, you and I are old friends.
Yeah, and then her arms, the mouths.
The
Oh, yeah, that was
puckerings.
gross.
are-
Oh, it was gross. And
Requiem for a Dream.
it totally.
Yeah.
And it still gives me the heebie-jeebies. And he injects her.
I love the noises they make. Yeah.
I like this kill. Generally because as I was watching it, it made me laugh again. I was like, okay, Freddy's this cheesy whatever, but he's also this sick fuck because he's injecting her with the syringes, and his eyes roll back in his head, and he's like, oh, what a rush, or
Like he's climaxing,
yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly.
He was
sick. It'd be
Yeah.
gross.
And then we get Will, who turns into the Wizard Master, gets fires some electricity at Freddy,
green squiggles.
appears to wound Freddy, but Freddy is Freddy, picks him up, stabs him in the chest, and is fucking over.
Well, the thing with this is he first does little green squiggles when he blows up the chair. So it shows, this magic shit works. And then he runs at him, spraying the green squiggles at him, and it's not affecting Freddy at all. And Freddy just grabs him. So his power was basically useless.
Exactly. And that's one of my problems with the Dream Warriors.
Mhm.
Their powers are useless.
So these two didn't even really get to put up much of a fight.
They didn't
at
put
all.
up okay, I take that back. Taryn stabbed him.
Did stab
We'll
him
get
in the
that.
side.
We'll get that.
Well, hold on. It doesn't really matter if, well, it doesn't really matter what you think, but no, their characters, they're given who they are, or at least what we're given for them. Their dreams are what they aspire to be. So that makes them a superhero. Quit discounting them, douche.
I wouldn't discount them if they were fucking alive or put up more of a fucking fight. They're the Dream Warriors. You know what I would have done if I was a Dream Warrior and I was in that?
Been a better parent.
Maybe, but I'm not the parent in that moment. I'm the fucking victim. I would have made it a point to find everybody fucking else.
I don't blame it on the Dream Warrior.
What would your superpower have been?
Sarcasm.
Yes.
Or
He would have made Freddy.
it would have been I am DD.
No, his power would be to make Freddy feel really, really bad.
And I'm fucking good at it. So I would have had Freddy in tears.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But-
Elise.
What I was gonna say is I don't blame the Dream Warriors for their failures. I just wish it was scripted better. I just wish that it had been written better for them to put up more of a fight.
But you needed so much more runtime.
Yeah. Which I would have loved.
And,
Yeah, that's the book. Honestly,
and the money.
I never thought I would have said this, but yeah, this almost needed to be a book or something
It
in longer
was.
form. Well, yeah, but not anymore.
You should
Somebody
read
lost it.
It's good. You should find it.
As
I should find it.
you guys are fucking killing me. As Neil and Dawn locate Freddy's remains, Kristen, Nancy, and Kincaid return to the dream world to rescue Joey. They manage to free him, but Freddy senses that his physical body is being disturbed. In retaliation, he kills Dawn and stabs Nancy, mortally wounding her. Just as Freddy turns on Kristen, Nancy uses his own glove to stab him, weakening him. At the same time, Neil purifies Freddy's remains, finally destroying him. Nancy dies in Kristen's arms. Days later, Nancy and Dawn's funeral take place. While there, Neil sees a grave marked Amanda Krueger, revealing that Sister Mary Helena was actually Freddy's mother. That night, as Neil sleeps near Kristen's papier-mâché house, the house mysteriously lights up, hinting that Freddy may not be gone for good. Roll credits, cue Dawkins.
We're the Dream Warriors.
Dream Warriors.
Who sings that?
We do. Don't bite, dude. Don't bite. We do. We sing it.
John, who sings that?
We do.
Good boy.
Good boy, John.
And so now, Taryn and Will are dead, and Nancy manages to find Kristen, and they're in this room, and they hear this noise, and they think it's Freddy, but
We get a
voila.
little swerve, yeah.
Yeah, but voila, it's Kincaid.
I could just kiss you.
Well, what's stopping you? And she kisses him on the back of the neck. I don't think that's what he had in mind, but Kincaid, you cheeky fucker. And so they have to find Joey, and Kincaid's like, you know what? Fuck this. Fuck this.
Fuck these white people.
Looking for
Yeah, he's calling Freddy out. He's calling him a pussy. He's saying, come on, fucker, let's do this. And then there's a big door.
I love
appears.
how they have to say, it's a door.
Yeah.
That goes to nowhere.
Thanks, captains. And they go through it, and we see the boiler room, but it's more expanded and it's more dreamlike. And what did it remind you of?
It definitely reminded me of Temple of Doom, the lair, the child slave labor mine thing. That establishing shot, I was like, oh, in my head, I was like, Kalima. And I didn't even realize that Joey is, in the middle of that establishing shot.
Over the lava pit.
Right, and then then the close up of him over the lava pit, and I was like, "Oh, this is Indiana Jones." But no, I totally got that vibe.
And so the three see Joey, and I love what Nancy says. Let him go, Krueger. Well, why would you tell him to let him go when he's being held up by the tongues?
That's
Very
like
poor choice of words.
That has to be like a Hollywood trope, because anytime someone ever says, let him go, it's usually someone holding somebody and say, okay, I'll just drop him.
Yeah. Nancy starts running down. The pipe that she's running down starts to crack, so Kincaid has to use his superpowers and hold her up. And then she saves, or she's going to dive and save Joey, but Freddy has his arm back to fucking chop her up, but Kristen comes in with one of her super kicks.
Jim Cotta.
Yep.
Did you ever see that movie?
Listeners, Jim Cotta, please and thank you. They start to fight or whatever, and Nancy manages to save Joey, and Kincaid picks up Nancy and Joey because he's super strong. And as Freddy's about to kill Kristen, Nancy stabs him, and it goes right through him. And then I like this bit because this also establishes what's happening when Freddy kills.
Yeah.
So he pulls the iron rod thing out of his chest, and Nancy says he's strong. He's never been this strong. And she would know because she dealt with him, right? And this is where we get the bit where we're told that every person that Freddy kills, or every child that Freddy kills or is killed, he gets their souls. And then he rips open his shirt, and we see the souls, and that's what gives him his strength. And as he's getting ready to fuck Kincaid up, he has a sense. And in the meantime, back at the junkyard, we are told that Thompson shows Neil where the body is, back of a caddy.
In the back of a caddy, yeah.
And they start digging, and they're getting ready to bury him.
I love the scene where Thompson tries to leave, and Neil just shakes the keys at him. Going somewhere?
Hey, I told you I'd help you find it. I didn't say I'd do anything else. And he goes, yeah, well, start digging, fucker. We have a funeral to attend.
Again, obviously he's drunk. He's not going to drive anywhere. So,
Well, I think he might have sobered up by now.
Oh, yeah, because what's his name? Took his
heavy
flask.
shit.
Yeah. And all of a sudden, all of the cars come to life. The horns are honking. Shit's getting crazy. And I like what Saxon says. Bury the fucker.
This was the one thing that, we talk about the little things that bother us in the movie, and a lot of people complained about number 2 because it broke the rules allowing Freddy to have dream powers in the real world. Well, when he comes and possesses his old bones or whatever and makes all the cars and the lights and everything go off, again, he's having dream powers in the real world. So it kind of brings, calls back to that second movie and the issues that people had.
You could argue that because his remains are there, maybe he has a radius of what he can haunt. It's just that graveyard.
That's exactly what I was thinking, is that maybe this was more like a haunting and now he's like a poltergeist having effects around his bones.
Because there's actually like a geophysical part of him. It wasn't a dream world.
And so the bones come to life.
Jason and the Argonaut
stop motion, and the skeleton
there's
comes
a lot
alive.
Of stop motion.
Yeah.
I noticed if the effects weren't like in and of themselves stop motion, they used stop motion techniques to get whatever movements were being done.
Yeah, the Freddy puppet earlier on with Philip's puppet.
Yeah, I noticed that.
And so the skeleton Freddy kills Don Thompson, throws him against the caddy,
just throws him,
impales him, and then knocks the shit out of Neil
with the freaking shovel.
Oh my god, fuck that noise.
But did you notice that the skeleton had the claws? And so I thought that was always weird, because we know that in the real world, the claws were over at Nancy's house in the boiler, or at least at one point. So did he just pull, again, like a number 2, just had the claws grow out of his bones?
You're overthinking it. And did it look cool?
It was so hard to see. I didn't think it even looked like anything.
So it didn't look cool?
No.
Okay. I thought it looked cool. So I didn't care.
I just figured, a skeleton with bony fingers is still going to be probably sharp at the end. Yeah. So he could have clawed him either way.
Yeah, but it's Freddy. If you're going to have a Freddy skeleton, you got to have the claw.
Yeah. I like, though, when the doctor hits Neil into the grave and buries him a couple times, that little Freddy laugh he gives.
He cheers himself, and then he goes back to the kids. And in the meantime, Kristen, Kincaid, Nancy, and Joey are walking into this room, this hallway of mirrors, which I hear tell it was the hardest scene to film because of all the mirrors.
Yeah.
But we get, Freddy shows back up and he says, sorry, I was away for a bit. I had something to do. Maybe if there was more of me to go around. And all of the Freddys start taking over the mirrors.
Especially the tonguing Freddy.
Oh, he's very well known for that.
He's a cunnilinguist.
And Joey backs himself into her corner, which is away from all the mirrors. Nancy gets sucked in. Kristen gets sucked in. Kincaid gets sucked in.
So much for his super strength.
And Joey stands up and screams, thus breaking all of the mirrors and throwing all of the Dream Warriors back into the hallway.
He pulls a black bolt.
And he says...
How's that for a superpower?
Well, okay. It's the only time he's ever used it. And so they're okay. And
think
for
they
some...
won.
Yeah, and I was thinking, for some reason, Nancy's like, he's gone. It's over. And I'm thinking, when I'm watching it, that can't be it. That's kind of a lame way to get rid of Freddy. Scream?
Well, John mentioned earlier how, when Kristen's getting eaten by the BBF, how Nancy comes in and just starts slashing and whatnot. You'd think that Nancy knows better than to fall for that trap.
You would think. And then she hears a voice, and
Daddy.
I'm like, oh, man.
He comes down as little sparkles.
I'm thinking, oh, what a kick to the balls, right? And he comes down and he says, I've crossed over, princess. I just wanted to come say goodbye. They hug.
And I'm sorry.
Sorry, I was a shitty parent.
Yep. And then Neil wakes up, crawls out of the grave.
Well,
and then we cut back, and they're hugging, and fucking, it's not Mr. Thompson. It's fucking Freddy.
Well, we first
and
see
he stabs
her face.
fucking... Yeah, he fucking stabs her.
Well, we see her face go into shock at first, and then they go down to below, and they show the claws in her, and then they go back up and show Freddy's face.
They fucking kill Nancy. What the fuck's that about?
Balls. They had the balls to do it, and it worked.
It totally worked. It makes you feel for it, right?
And not only that, as she's kind of fallen down dead, Kristen's in the room. He makes the door close behind Kristen, separating her from Joey and Kincaid.
So why didn't Joey open his mouth and blow the fucking door open?
Why didn't Kincaid use his super strength and knock the door down? Because he does it in a sec later.
Even a better fucking question. But I like Kristen's reaction is shock. She can't believe this is happening. So I'll give that one to her. Mm-hmm. And then we cut back to the cemetery. And Neil manages to put the bones into the hole.
Well, but right before that, Freddy he lunges for Kristen, and Nancy comes back over his shoulder, grabs his arm, and puts it in the chest. And this is the reason why I say that this happened first, is because I think this is why Neil was able to scoop the bones into the grave and do everything he did, because now Freddy's distracted. He's weakened by getting stabbed with his own claw.
Okay. That's how
they listed it in the book, that one of Freddy's weaknesses and one of the few things that could actually hurt him was his own claw.
And so the bones are in the hole, and Nancy's holding on to Freddy with his claw in his stomach, and they're kind of doing a dance. And then Neil starts sprinkling holy water on the bones, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. And at the same time, the
drops
are having an effect on Freddy, and we see this big glow of light, and he flings Nancy off, and he's starting to twirl, and then Neil puts the crucifix in the hole. We see it appear on Freddy's head, and voila, Freddy's gone.
He spins around and goes back to Oz or something.
I think out of all of the movies, this is one of my favorite, if not favorite, ways they dispatch him. All the other ways are kind of, even in the first movie, right? She just turns her back on him.
You don't like when they blow him up and Freddy's dead?
We'll get to there. We will get there, my brother.
All I could really think of was, and it's crossing characters, but wasn't Jason brought to life from the grave? Like, do they stab him with a rod and it gets struck by lightning?
Yeah. One of the things. Yeah,
I think 5. I think.
Can that happen on hallowed ground?
I don't know. I don't even know what fuck hallowed ground is.
It has to be consecrated with holy water.
With holy water and the crucifix. That's why.
I would think that he would have had to take him back to Holy Land. Something.
And not a junkyard?
Not a junkyard.
Well, maybe when he sprinkles the holy water, it turns it into.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe the holy water was the key at this point.
Probably. Because of the Christian themes.
Mm-hmm.
And the crucifix.
Yeah.
And the
prayer.
Importance of having proper identification.
And that now he believes.
The importance of having proper identification. Here, I'll leave you my license. And so Nancy dies in Kristen's arms, and she says, I'm going to dream you into a beautiful dream. Kincaid finally gets the fucking door open. But yeah, Nancy's gone, and it's fucking depressing, and I was sad to see her go, but so important to the story. And actually, Wes Craven called Heather Langenkamp and said, I'm writing a script for 3. Can I put your character in it? And would you want to do it? And she said, fuck yes, not knowing he wasn't directing. And then she was always scheduled to die from the first script. And so after the dream world, they cut to the funeral where they're burying Nancy. And Neil sees the nun, follows her. She pulls a Batman.
Well, I love the fact that they're standing there at the funeral. And if you notice, Kristen's kind of got her head on his shoulder. And then he just wanders away.
Well, yeah, he got lured away from Batman.
So it's kind of like OCD. It's like, oh, shiny object.
And we are told that Sister Mary Helena was, in fact, Amanda Krueger, Freddy's mom. And then we cut to Neil sleeping. We cut to the house. Well, first we kind of go by the Malaysian dream doll that Nancy had. We go by the house. Did a great
job protecting her.
Yeah, totally. Goes by the house. House light turns on. Then we get the Dream Warrior song. And that is Nightmare on Elm Street 3.
Did you know the Dream Warriors were supposed to come back?
But they didn't.
Originally, an idea that was proposed for, I think, Nightmare on Elm Street 6, Freddy's Dead, was they are now the Dream Police, and they were going to show up again to fight Freddy. And that everyone thought that's the most hokey, dumb idea ever. But that was one of the ideas that was pitched.
Yeah, well, there you go. Yeah. Kincaid and Joey and Kristen show up for about 10 seconds in 4. Well, but we'll get there when we get there.
I want to know, and again, I wish this would have been an extra scene. We talked about it earlier when, the group wakes up and Joey's on the ground in a coma. Well, Kincaid, at the end of this movie, is in a room with Will, Taryn, and Nancy. So when he woke up, or when someone came in the room and woke him up, he's there with 3 dead white people.
I'm going to say that he woke up before anybody could get there, and he ran out of there and went into his own room. And when they asked him about it, he was like, I don't know. I wasn't there.
Yeah, I'm going to say, because here's this kid.
I wasn't invited.
Yeah.
Here's this kid with a history of violent outbursts to be found with 3 dead bodies. Kincaid was in a little bit, or had some explaining to do.
Yeah, a little bit.
But we all knew it was Freddy.
All right. What do you guys think? You guys ready to rate this flick?
I'm ready to rate this flick. Are you ready to rate it, John?
Welcome to review time, bitch. Don, this was your movie, your pick. You want to go first?
I will go first after I tell our listeners we rate our movies on a scale from 1 to 5 fucks, a 0 being a movie we don't give a fuck about, and 5 being cinematic gold. A Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors is probably my second favorite in this series. I think it is a fantastic film. It is fun. It shows us a scary side of Freddy through the first half, and then it shows us a scary, jokey asshole Freddy, I guess, if you will. I like the concept. I like the characters. I love the fact that Wes Craven came back. I love the fact that they brought Nancy and her dad back, and they tied it to the first film. I think that the music is great. I thought the direction was great. I am disappointed with the lack of Dream Warrior-ness we actually get. And I think that it may have hurt it just a hair, but I get it. They didn't have the budget to continue it. They didn't have the budget for the kind of dream worlds that Chuck Russell really wanted. So they did the best that they could. And at the time, they turned out the highest grossing Nightmare on Elm Street movie. And they revived it. They revived the franchise and kind of turned it into the franchise. And so I'm giving Dream Warriors 4.75 fucks.
Keenan, would you like to go next, or would you like me to go next?
Go ahead.
Okay. But before I do, Don, would you like to guess my rating?
Well, you gave the original solid gold, and you like this one, you have said, better than the original. So yeah, I'm going to say you're going to give this one 5 fucks too.
I'm going to give it 5 fucks?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I struggled on this one. After the issues of Freddy's Revenge, the movie that broke all the rules, Dream Warriors brings A Nightmare on Elm Street back on track, thanks to Wes Craven's return as a writer. His influence is obvious. This feels like a true Elm Street sequel. Even the classic Freddy theme is back after being bizarrely absent from Freddy's Revenge. The cast is solid, with Heather Langenkamp returning as Nancy, and while she's not quite as strong as she was in the first film, she's still great to have back. Patricia Arquette, in her first major role, brings heart and vulnerability to Kristen, making her one of the franchise's best protagonists. And of course, Robert Englund fully evolves Freddy into the wisecracking sadistic killer that we all love. And while I have said repeatedly, this is one of my favorite of the series, if not the favorite of the series, Don, you bring up a great point in that I wish they would have expanded on the Dream Warriors, on their abilities, and on their fight scenes. Even if it would have made the film longer, cost more money, I still would have loved it more to have just more of that effect, because I love to have Freddy finally have some antagonists that can stand up to him. So it's for those reasons I'm giving Dream Warriors 4.75 fucks out of 5.
4.75 fucks from the comic book guy. All right there, guy.
All right. I will give this a 2.69. And that rate's higher. I'd probably rate the first one like a 2.5. I like this one better than the first one. The first one is classic. Great. Again, I wasn't born when these movies came out, so I think I might have a little different perspective. The first one, establishes a wonderful world. Wes Craven does. This one, I think, does a really good job at building on that initial world. I like the idea of like the shared dream. It actually had a little bit of a cerebral aspect to it in the story moving forward. So this one is just more fun. If both were on TV simultaneously, I would watch this one over the first one.
No, well, there you go. There you go. With 4.75 fucks from both the Comic Book Guy and myself, that gives Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors an average of 4.75 fucks, which now ties it in the 4th spot with Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, Kill Bill Volume 2, The Train to Busan, Die Hard, The Shawshank Redemption, and Elf. It is slightly better than Goodfellas, Pulp Fiction, Black Panther, and A Quiet Place, and slightly worse than Lethal Weapon, Ghostbusters, Kill Bill Volume 1, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring.
If Professor gave a rating for this, I bet you it would take it way down, because I can't see him giving it higher than a 3. What do you think?
I would say probably maybe a 3.25?
3.25, you think?
Maybe, but definitely in the 3s. I agree with you there. All right, that is going to wrap it up for this episode of Three Guys in a Flick. If you would like to know which movie we're going to be reviewing next, please check out the website. Speaking of which, hey, John, where can they find us?
They can always find us at our website, threeguysinaflick.com, where we post all of our show notes, our podcasts, as well as there is a web form there that you could submit a movie you'd like us to review down the road. You can also find us at all of social media. And one of the things I'm trying to do now is on our X account, we're going to go ahead and post on social media, actually on all of our social media, if I can actually get off my ass and do it. We're going to post on Tuesdays the movie that's coming out, the movie review that's coming out on Thursdays. So if you'd like to know, that's another great place to check it out. You can also find us at any place that hosts podcasts. And in fact, while you're listening to us right now, be sure to give us a comment, give us a like, subscribe, and if you want, you can actually add a comment of another movie you'd like us to review.
All right. I just want to thank myself again for picking such a great movie. Thanks, Don.
Don.
And I want to thank anyone else who listens and who has suggested a movie. If you keep listening, we'll keep recording. For Three Guys in a Flick, I'm Don.
I'm John.
I'm Keenan, bitch.
Thanks for listening.
Three guys with some rights, yeah, darling the flicks. We're here for the real talk, no time for the tricks. Don as the captain, steering us right. Kid drops now, he's shedding light. John with the comics, bringing the hype. From the good, the bad, to the absurd. We break it down, make sure you heard. Passion for the screen, we ride or die about movies. You know, we always give a fuck, no lie.
This is it, Jennifer. Your big break in TV. Welcome to prime time, bitch.
I feel like halfway through that, you channeled Kermit the Frog.
Maybe. I don't think he works with Rosanna Arquette, does he? Yeah,
No,
stumped your trivia.
But he did work with Louis Arquette, who appeared in Scream 2.
Does that count?
Who the fuck is Louis Arquette?
I think it's just bad parents.
Ultimately, the Nightmare on Elm Street series is about bad parenting.
I mean,
I guess maybe it was in the second movie when in the dream where his sister was doing the jump rope, wasn't it?
Your memory is astonishing, bud.
Yeah. Have you ever gone into like a doctor's room for an exam or whatever and had a scalpel just sitting out?
this isn't a doctor's room. This is an insane asylum.
Well, the good news is anything psychologically damaging in your dreams are your parents' fault.
Oh, no, I know.
Okay. It's all the damage they've done to you.
All of it.
Thanks, guys.
Shitty parents.
Shitty parents, man. Was I a shitty parent? You know what? Don't answer that. Nancy's crouching.
Okay.
She's already on the ground.
Yeah, let's watch it again.
Yeah. Let's fucking throw it on.
Okay.
Okay.
Time out.
Okay. And
And
so,
we're back.
And I was right.
all right, straight talk only. What do you got?
I have got 3, maybe 4.
Okay. Hit me with the first one.
Wet Dream on My Street 3, Cream Warriors.
I have A Nightmare on Dong Street, Scream Warriors.
Nice. A Nympho on Elm Street, Scream Warriors.
Oh, I like that one. How about A Nympho on Elm Street 3, Cream Warriors?
I have Nuts Deep in Elm Street 3, Ream My Warrior.
That's not that bad.
Night in Her Elm Slit 3, Deep Warriors.
I like the Deep Warriors.
You don't like the Night in Her Elm Slit?
Doesn't kind of, it's a mouthful.
Yeah, that's what she said.
A nice hair on Elm Street. I don't know.
On her Elm Strip?
On her Elm
On
Strip,
her Elm Strip. A nice hair on Elm Strip.
Cream Warriors.
And yeah.
All right. May all of your days and nights be filled with happiness. All right. Fuck up. Good night.
Cast the vibe as 3 guys in a flick, keep the passion alive. Fuck